Welcome everybody to MogTalk, episode 240. Today is September 4th, 2021. And if you're unfamiliar with MogTalk, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. And before we get started, I want to go ahead and introduce our cast here. Starting, I guess, clockwise. We'll start with you, Annie. Annie, can you tell everybody who you are?
I'm Annie, or AnnieFuchsia, and I'm a streamer on Twitch mainly. Have been trying to do a little bit of stuff on YouTube lately as well. And yeah, I was on this show a couple months ago, or 1 month ago maybe, as I started getting into Final Fantasy. Yeah, here I am again.
Yeah, and just so we set this base level before we do any more other introductions, where are you in the main story quest so we know where to keep our conversation?
I just entered Stormblood.
Okay, all right. So Heaven's Ward completely, we can talk about it at all we want to, but not okay, good. All right, and next, been on the show plenty of times over the course of MogTalk's existence, MrHappy. Can you tell everybody who you are?
I'm MrHappy, and I always forget that Frosty plays embarrassing clips at the start of every show, and I never think about it in advance until I'm sitting there watching it. So thank you for that, Frosty. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I try to make sure I set the expectations where they should be.
Yeah, that's about right for me.
Go ahead.
I do Twitch. I do YouTube. I've been Final Fantasy XIV focused for 7-8 years now, pretty much, as long as I've done those platforms. So, and I don't know what sleep is. So that's my key trait.
You know, that's something that we need to all figure out together. I think I'm going to lose a lot of that soon. Angelus, tell everybody who you are, dude.
Hello. I'm on Twitch. I do a little bit more on YouTube. I do a little bit of Deep Dungeon here and there, I'd say. So that's me.
Okay. Perfect. Also, the person who is, like, I think the number one figure most people know when they think Palace of the Dead is Angelus. Just to make sure everybody is clear about that. I don't think he did it properly there. But that being said, we are talking about Palace of the Dead today because we do want to have that discussion. It is a extremely popular mode that has taken a lot of new players, actually, that are coming into the community now by storm, which is surprising to me because this content wasn't... It was put into the game how long ago?
2016.
2016. And it really wasn't.
He was so ready for that.
Yeah, it wasn't even a question I had on the sheet. So thanks to Jealous, he just effing knows it all, man. But yeah, no, with this content, it's just not really updated too much. I mean, they added a couple of things to it at some point, but it's not fresh content. But it is fresh to people coming into the game, like Annie. You got into Annie. What made you want to do Palace of the Dead?
I was told that it's quite rare to get to the end of it, so that alone was an interesting challenge, I guess. Caught my interest, and I wanted to know more. And I heard about how it's a grind, and it can be quite difficult, where just like that your run is over, and that sounded fun to me. I like grinding through things. I like progressing, and I like challenges where I feel like I'm, I don't know, reaching something that not many people bother with. That kind of content is interesting to me.
Like an achievement. It feels like an actual achievement.
Yeah, an achievement. Yeah.
Not like it's achievement in the game, but it's actually a achievement in general.
Yeah, like an actual challenge achievement.
Right. And I think that's what's bringing a lot of people into it. But before we go into that as well, might as well go ahead and get everybody's experience with Palace of the Dead so we know where it's at. Angelus. You know what? Let's save Angelus for last. Annie, what's your experience with Palace of the Dead so far?
So on my solo run, I got to 137 on my last run. The run before that was 99. So, and the run before that was 1. That's the one that you guys saw as the show was getting started. So yeah, 137 was my latest one, and I started again, and now I'm at like 80, I think. So yeah, need a few more hours to get into it again.
We're talking about just solo here. I mean, you've cleared it with a team.
Yes, I did clear in a team. I don't feel that's a real achievement since obviously my teammates were more experienced than I was. But yes, I did experience it in that way where I did get to the end, and we did manage 200 together as a team.
Okay, cool. MrHappy?
I recently did, well, not Necromancer. I recently soloed to floor 200, but I started from 51. And
How can you do that to yourself?
okay, my title is way better.
It's true.
The one I have currently. And I couldn't take another 3 hours or 2 to 3 hours of the first 50 floors. So you know what? I don't care about the title. I just need to do this. Those last 20 floors are where it's all at. I need to do it. And despite me being my own worst enemy for the last 20 floors of my only successful run, I managed it there. So I will still be a world-class troller.
Yeah. Which is an achievement.
I'm a necro boyser. I'm not a necromancer, I'm a necro.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah.
All right.
No, I mean, I think that's fair enough because obviously the real challenge is past 50 anyways.
Yeah.
So the only real difference is the time investment. But I think I would not be able to push all the way because I'd feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah, I spent 3 months on the title I have, and this was 5 attempts, so I'm like, you know what, I'll take the title. That took me 3 months.
So how do you get the title that you have?
Ocean fishing. 3 million ocean fishing points, and you will be a world-class troller.
It's just grindy. It's really
interesting choice
grindy.
of name. Mm-hmm.
It's Koji just likes doing names like that. Koji's the kind of translation and lore expert on SE side, yeah. And he does all the namings for this stuff, so he knew we would like it. But let's do Angelus's experience here. Angelus, can you tell everybody your experience with Palston?
I've been to 218 times. I've cleared 17 of them, and I've done it on 9 different jobs.
9 different jobs.
Just brush your shoulder off, right?
I can't help but notice you said you were at 218 and you cleared at 17.
That's right. I timed out one time.
That's so painful.
What?
Healer?
No, on a summoner. I timed out. I took 5 steps into 200 and timed out.
Oh, wait, so you were at 200, but you just didn't press the orb. Is that it?
Yeah, I didn't make it all the way to the bottom.
My heart.
That's very painful. Very painful.
Yeah, it sucked.
Well, we have a pretty good range here. Annie, you haven't completed the main story quest, and so this is something you're working on right now as experience. Happy, you've been around. You're a veteran of Final Fantasy XIV. One of the first streamers, by the way, partner streamers for Final Fantasy XIV is MrHappy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, dedicated Final Fantasy XIV streamer. That's this dude. He's been around for a while, and he just recently got the not the achievement, but he cleared 200. He didn't get he got the achievement personally. Are you taking your shirt?
Basically got it.
No, I'm not taking my shirt off. I'm covering my face with this very handy MogTalk shirt that I happen to have.
The first shirt I ever made and the worst I've ever made. Never do a white t-shirt that has a Moogle on it. I'm just letting you guys know.
Saves money on ink.
There's a Moogle on that?
It's on the back. It's on the back. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's my old logo. I gave that to you. When was that? In 2018? 2016?
I thought I bought it.
You bought it?
Didn't you sell these?
No, I just gave them. I just threw them away.
Oh. All right. Well, then I'm glad I got you the PS5 then, because
hey, you know what? I paid for that.
You sure did, but I'm still the one who got it.
That's true. I trust MrHappy enough to send him tons of money, and he trusts me enough to be able to get me a PlayStation.
I trust you enough to have to deal with Target being terrible to reroute things. Is what I learned.
I feel like we're off target here with the whole conversation, so I'm gonna go to the next thing. And so, Palace of the Dead, it's one of those pieces of content that's just, I think, anyone can get into pretty much. When can you first start getting into Palace of the Dead? Is it like 30 or something?
Level 17.
Level 17.
It is 17, yeah.
And you could go through all the way up to your level 50 skill set and everything else and get kind of familiar with your jobs, right?
60.
60.
60 is all the way. Man, I'm so stupid. All right, so 60. You can go all the way up to 60 and see how that job plays. And it's actually a really good tool to figure out if you're going to like a job or not. But most new players aren't going to know
you get
that.
access to everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't want to like level up a job to see if you're going to like it or spend the money on the Mog Station to figure it out, you could just kind of go through Palace of the Dead and mess around with it and see if you enjoy the job.
However, jobs that change at 30, if you haven't hit 30 yet, you're going to be stuck as like a level 60 thaumaturge. That happened to me.
Wait, can you do Thaumaturge or like those like not?
Yeah.
Because I go in with my character that's not level 30 yet, so I haven't become a black mage, right? And then I'm just stuck as a thaumaturge for the rest of my run. So inside Palace of the Dead, I get to level 60, and I'm a thaumaturge, so I don't have any black mage abilities.
I actually didn't know that. I guess that makes it a horrible, not horrible, but not nearly as good tool.
No, horrible is the correct choice.
Okay,
If you hit 30, it's not so bad then. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. But you got to get all the way up to 30, so I guess that's like a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But no,
There's a pugilist clear on elemental?
Yes.
Oh my.
Okay, well that was going to be my next question: is if anybody's cleared it without a job stone.
Yeah,
so is that
JP
the only
has.
one?
Oh.
I think the same person cleared on Rogue as well.
Wow.
It's gotta be spin, right,
What the
Angelus?
hell?
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's gotta be spin.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
That's crazy.
so does that even list in the leaderboard?
Yes, the pugilist one is on the board on elemental.
Is it under monk? Because I know it separates it by.
Yeah,
job.
it would be under monk.
Okay. So they don't make like a new one.
He doesn't get a separate one.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty interesting. So one of the neat things about this, I guess, is that you kind of make your own difficulty and your own little challenges with it, and it's a community that's just trying to challenge themselves to get clear 200 in different ways. And I guess that's why it stayed alive for so long, as with the players who are going into it, like yourself, Angelus, right? It's just that there's so many challenges, and you haven't done everything that you can do, all the different challenges that are out there, right?
No, I'm still working on Palace. Yeah.
And that's insane. So it's so much content. This is renewable content that I didn't think was going to be a renewable content in the end. When it first came out, I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. You know, everyone's going to knock it out. And then it took 2 years for Red Mage to clear it solo, right?
Yep.
Well, there's a big thing is when it first came out, we only had the floor 50. And then they released 51 to 200 all at once. But there was no solo title because they were like, I don't know if anyone can solo this. But then Stormblood came out and they added the Necromancer title at Stormblood launch. So I think they knew that Red Mage could do it at that point. It just seems like they were conscious of that.
Yeah.
So in general, the first solo run took like 2 years?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I think it was
I
possible
mean, it makes
to
sense.
do it.
It's the time and yeah. It's a huge time investment.
Oh, yeah.
I think people had to figure it out, as well as I think they made some updates to Red Mage. I mean, Red Mage came out and it was like the new job when it during Stormblood.
Well, the initial introduction too, they didn't even have the sustaining potions for a while, so it was even way harder. And you need sustaining potions for all of it. So,
did they have the leaderboard back then for solo?
Yes.
So
in the very beginning, they did.
Okay.
That's what drew me in initially because of the leaderboards. That's why I was really interested in the content from the beginning.
Yeah. And I think leaderboards is definitely something that makes it all interesting as well. So how does it work with the leaderboard if you get to floor 200? Is there a difference between you and another person on the same job that got to 200?
There's like a really complicated system with the points. There's so many details that go into it. Basically, you just get a scorecard at the very end, and then it just puts it up into the leaderboard. And yeah, it'll be just based on whatever things you do on the run that puts the points into there, and then it ranks it upon that.
Things like time,
kills, opening chests, opening map. It's really crazy detailed, but yeah.
Because that means even if you get 200, it could be interesting to keep going just to improve that score.
That's correct. And even with the other deep dungeon heaven on high, you're in a current situation where you could clear, but you can't even make it on the board because there's just too many people there with higher points. So that's also a thing now too.
Wouldn't know anything about that.
You get more points if you
I
start from
see.
1, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I that's the other interesting part to this is that it's not ranking it by who cleared it first. It's ranking it
No.
by the points. So it's
Yeah, who cleared it the best way?
Basically, yeah.
It's not. I don't know if it's even the best way. It's just the most. Maybe I don't know if it's even the most difficult way. It's just whoever could game the system, right?
Yeah, it's optimal
Yeah,
in
that can be
essence.
argued. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know how the score works, I mean, you should inherently do worse than someone who does. Someone who
Right.
does,
Mhm.
you know how to get through all the floors in less than 30 minutes while hitting as many chests, while making I think there's a big amount of skill that goes into, especially the first 150 floors, because after that it's kind of tough to do the time related stuff.
Right.
But yeah,
So I know you said it's really complicated, Angelus, but do you want to try to explain some of the scoring system?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, actually, the most complicated one that was discovered by a community member, AlphaShoot, was that in Palisade specifically, the score tends to increase per. I forgot the actual detail. It's something like every 20 floors or something, the amount of kills, the amount of points you get per kill increases steadily, and especially when you get up to 101. So the more kills you get, the more points you get. And so there gets to be this point where there's this actually line where and we also have a speed bonus, which we call the speed run, where you do it under 30 minutes, you get a bonus point. It's basically do it under 30 minutes, you get a bonus point. Do it over 30 minutes, you don't get this bonus point. And there's a line in the 100 plus floors where it's actually better to just kill everything for 60 minutes versus actually going faster, which I don't know perfectly myself because I haven't really optimized it, but stuff like that happens. And then getting all the chests, that's all points too. Getting all the tiles in the map, that's all points too. Reducing the amount of traps you step on, even down to seeing mimics is bonus points, seeing special enemies and specifically pals is bonus points, so on and so forth, and maximizing all of that correctly using alterations so you can try to get more of the mimics and such, not using in as many flights so you get more kills. That it gets really wild and crazy in terms of getting highly optimized points and really seeking it out. And then not to mention you have to then clear. So, it makes it really difficult with that stuff.
And the leaderboard has never been reset, right? It's just always there.
Nope. Yeah, it's been never reset.
And
it's never been
So who's
reset,
number
but
one?
Say it one more time, Annie. I'll let you go first.
I was wondering who's number one.
Well,
I think the highest top one is in JP that has a 3.4 million score. That's the top score of every score available.
And is that done on Red Mage?
I don't know what job they're. I can take a look real fast.
Okay.
No, I think it's machinist actually.
Okay.
I had a feeling just because it's machinist is insane.
Yeah, 3.4 million, which is insane. Because generally, a person who will clear not caring about score will get 2.7, 2.8. Someone who's kind of caring will get 3 million, 3.1, and then when you start caring, that's how high it can go.
It's crazy. Mike, what were you saying? MrHappy, what were you saying?
I don't remember.
I'm sorry.
Annie, you messed it up. You messed it up. You had
Yeah,
such a
I
good
messed
point.
it up. Oh no. Oh.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was something about the leaderboards, but
oh yeah, you're talking about the reset of the leaderboards, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
right. So one really unfortunate thing is if someone server transfers, they get taken off because you're no longer on that server.
Oh.
So there's one individual who had a clear, I think, on every job in Palace who server transferred and now has to re-earn them, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
It's doing them as we speak, actually. Trying to get them all back.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure they're confident in their ability to do it, so it's not a big deal, right?
I still feel bad for jobs like
Yeah,
Black.
not a big deal, just a few hundred hours.
Yes. Some of those jobs, man. I mean, I watch Angelus. I don't know how he does it on some of the easier jobs. So jobs like Black Mage and stuff, I just, it's mind-boggling when I see what people can do on that job when they have a lot of experience.
So that is a good point to bring up. I mean, going into it, people usually know their job pretty well, but I'm guessing this takes it to a whole nother level of you trying to abuse all the different things that the jobs can do. Angelus, do you know of anything that you kind of started to abuse that is not something that's used normally, by PB players?
Sticking it in Palace. I mean, I guess in general, just general crowd control is one that you probably don't typically use just outside of like literally anything, and that's almost a key component to just succeeding, especially as something like machinists who will just constantly be using weight and bind and stuff to help them out. On when I was doing Paladin, you'd be utilizing landmines to explode, and with Paladin specifically, you can use hollowed ground. I drag like 10 enemies with me, hollowed ground, straight into a landmine, just kill them all in quick succession. Stuff like that is where the fun tricks come into play, but you're utilizing the kit of what the job has just to its maximum level to just get the most out of it. And also to make up some of the things where like a tank has lower DPS, so you have to do something a little bit more for that job to make up for that kind of lack versus a regular DPS who will just have more damage, stuff like that.
If you react that way to Paladin, dude, Black Mage and Heaven on High is on a whole nother level.
That's a nutty job to do. Yep.
Yeah, it's like they can like between the lines across a landmine not take the damage from it, but like sleep enemies next to it. And I don't think it breaks the sleep, does it?
Nope. Yeah, like ley lines is a damage boost. You sit on it to do damage, and Heaven on High, I've used it for strictly kiting. Just run away from my ley lines between lines, run away from it between lines. So it's just a strictly kiting tool, which is you're literally never going to do that anywhere else because you have to survive in that place.
Annie, do you know what Heaven on High is?
I'm assuming that's the Stormblood version of Palace.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't done it. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. People have referred to it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
I think you need level 70 for that, right?
63 to unlock it.
Yeah.
But you can walk in.
Okay.
You have to be 61 to go into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think
Yeah,
there's really
I haven't unlocked it yet, but I know about it. No, that's okay.
They're not gonna
People have
talk this.
talked about it.
Not gonna say anything about it in actual, just acknowledging its existence. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine even if you say things because it's not really like story. It's more like an experience, and I'll probably forget most things that you say anyways since I haven't been there.
Okay.
I just feel like I'm here mostly to toot Angelus's horn because every time I watch him, it blows my mind the things I'm like I feel dumber. Then smarter afterwards, but dumber because I can't do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like you know, we were talking about this before, Mike, last time you were on. You know, when you read a book and you're like, man, this book is so bad that I feel like I can write a book. Angelus is like reading a book that you're like, oh shit, I don't think I could ever write a book.
Yeah. I'm reading Dr. Seuss and he's The Shining.
Yeah, I suppose so. But that kind of being said, the other let's toot. What the hell, Angelus? Let's toot your horn a little bit more. Angelus, you only play on a keyboard mostly, right? You don't use a mouse at all.
That's right. I don't know what a mouse is. Well, I mean, I do, but I only use when I play the game.
Yeah. Which is absolutely insane to me because I don't know how you control your character well enough in Palace of the Dead with any kind of accuracy without a mouse.
Works
You don't
for me.
move around with your mouse, like move
Nope.
your perspective and stuff. Oh, interesting.
I have my camera binded to keys on my keyboard, so it moves it like that.
And he also has a keyboard on the bottom right of his stream so you can watch it in real time, like as the indicator for what he's pressing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of akin to like a controller kind of. We move like your right hand, you move the right hand, the camera moves to the left hand. I'm sorry, move with the left hand, camera with the right hand. It's kind of akin to that a little bit.
Camera?
Yeah, like so I manage my camera with my keyboard, so that's how you can see like the perspective of the character. That makes sense. So I do that with my right hand on the keyboard. So I manipulate the camera with my right hand, and then I typically move the WASD normally, like most people.
Mm-hmm.
So do you use like point arrows to move camera, or something?
No, I actually use the minus sign, the P, and the open close brackets. So they're right up
over there on
to the
keyboard.
numbers. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So how did that happen? Did you just decide like, I kind of don't want to use the mouse. I'm just gonna bind these things instead?
No, I first played FF11, and FF11 just really had no real good mouse support. So I learned how to play just on a full keyboard because of that game. And I did that game for 9 years, so I just transferred it over to 14 when 14 came out.
Gotcha. Yeah,
News
that
update.
makes sense.
The game is 19 years old. Still doesn't have good mouse support.
Oh, jeez. So let's I want to ask something of you, Annie. Of course, you're our resident WoW expert. I'm going to say that because I don't think... Angelus, and Happy, I think you know WoW, but maybe you're not like experts at WoW, right?
I played
I don't know
Burning
if I'm an expert either,
Crusade.
but
Yeah, I played Burning Crusade, Wrath, and I quit at the beginning of Cataclysm. I haven't been back since.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I've played none of it because I was in FF11 during that, so I was just going to commit to one MMO. I mean, I know it obviously, but I was committed to 11, so I never touched WoW.
So, coming into Final Fantasy XIV and experiencing Palace of the Dead, does this equate to other things in WoW at all?
Palace of the Dead.
Yeah.
The closest thing to it is something that we got kind of recently called Torghast, which is also based on progressing through different levels. It's not as extensive. It's not 200 floors. I think the max that you could go for is 18 or something. I'm not 100% sure. And I actually remember enjoying that too when it first came out, like to do it the first time to actually get to 18, because there too, when you start reaching the end, mobs one-shot you, right? If you don't interrupt this ability, you're dead. If you don't outrange this thing, like you're dead. If you don't walk out of this damage, you're dead. So I guess I already had like a sense of that type of gameplay, and having it also. So there's a few differences in how it's built in Torghast and WoW. You have powers that you pick up, so your character actually changes for every run that you play, but it's also a lot shorter. So that was the closest thing to POTD that I had experienced.
Okay. Is it difficult? Like, do you consider Torghast pretty difficult?
So I haven't reached like the later levels of POTD, but I'm guessing that it's gonna be very like it's gonna be more difficult in the sense that there's a lot more floors, a lot more mobs, and a lot more everything to deal with. But difficulty in itself, the thing with Torghast also is that as your gear improves, you perform better. So when I first did it, it was quite hard to finish all the levels, but I can't say for sure that it's hard anymore. I don't know. I haven't been there since. But when you first did it, it was kind of challenging, but not in the same way. Like I did it over a few hours, whereas POTD is like over a few days because there's so much. It's I think that's what I would say. So I would say POTD is harder because there's a lot more to go through.
Yeah, and I think that's something when they first came out, just they wanted to make it pretty difficult, and kind of that was one of the challenges. So many floors, but the floors are kind of short too. I mean, they're not like really long. Palace of the Dead floors are pretty short.
Trust me, they feel long. they can feel long.
That's fair.
And one big thing is that I wanted to bring up is we're talking about Palace a lot now and the way it is now. When it first came out, and when a Deep Dungeon's brand new, it's kind of similar to the way you described Torghast, because the goal when it first comes out for most people isn't to grind up to 99 and then go through it. It's to like maybe go with a group of friends and just go through in like one or two goes with like whatever you have. So I remember going through Palace in Heaven and just people being one shot like by auto attacks and just getting slapped by a monster just once, bop, and just gone. So it kind of reminds me of that, and it's been a while since we've experienced that with Deep Dungeons because we didn't have one in Endwalker. So kind of missed that exact feeling now that you brought it up.
Yeah,
I remember.
I do love that POTD is scaled, meaning that it always becomes relevant and it always stays the same difficulty. I think that's one of the coolest parts of it.
I'll kind of agree with that. Just the only difficulty to that is that when they change jobs and they have to recalibrate them for an expansion.
Abilities,
it can kind of get wonky with abilities. I think it's been pretty stable overall, though. Like, it hasn't been horrible. Angelus would know a lot better than I would, of course, how that's evolved. But I do remember when it first came out, and the teams were kind of racing to see who could clear it first. And I will never forget the video of Noriko Star, who's now working with Square Enix. She's on the Square Enix team. She tried with a team and they died right at 197. And it's just a video of her expressing all of the pain, like on her face. You could see it, and it went all over Japan. It went all over everywhere. People seeing her frustration of being one of the first stream teams that like were trying to get it cleared. It was a pain, and this was a team of 4, by the way. It was a team of 4. I can't remember how long they've been going at it. Do you remember, Mike?
No, I was busy doing it myself, so I don't remember. I just remember it took us 2 runs. We took 2 save files up to 90, and then we died on the first one, 91 to 100, and then the second save file was a success. And then everyone in my group said, I'm never doing that again. And I said, damn it.
Because it's a lengthy. It is a lot of time. And
It's not that much with 4 people, especially if once we have all the ether pool.
It's true. It's true. And you could run and die, and it's not the end of the world if you die. I mean, you just stay a little bit more spread out, right? And then you just try to res them later on. But yeah, this is they've changed that.
Oh, that was one thing.
Sure.
Speaking of rezzing, an interesting thing was, so when I went with my group, when I went there the first time to 200, we didn't have anyone who can res.
Right.
we only relied on the cairns and things like that to be able to actually stay alive. And we kind of realized that as the run was going well, like maybe one of us should have picked a class that can actually res. So that was interesting. Just a random thought as you mentioned rezzing.
It would help. It would help. But I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about the content too. You can go literally whatever configuration you want to through it. You can do 4 tanks and run through it. If you can solo it with a job, you can literally do whatever you want as a group going through the content.
True.
But it's not something that especially when you're coming into it the first time. I think what was I going to say? I was going to say something about the evolution of what they did, because this was successful when it first came out, and then Heaven on High came out, and just so you know, hopefully this is a huge spoiler for you. There's only 100 floors in Heaven on High. So they kind of said,
I'm sure it's been mentioned and I forget, so it's fine.
Okay. So they made it to where they were like, hey, maybe it is a little bit too long. People like the last half of Palace of the Dead. And they kind of made HOH kind of a little bit closer to that. I think, I don't know difficulty-wise, but would you say like the first 20 floors are the easier one and the last 80 floors are difficult for Heaven on High?
The first 10 are hard. And then 11 to 20 is a little bit easier, and then it kind of gets a little bit easier, and then it kind of ramps back up by like 51, and it starts curving upwards from 51 plus.
Yeah, and it's a little bit less of a time investment to kind of go through and try to solo it.
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and then they haven't really done anything with this type of content since then, and Angelus is, I know, hoping for it. You're hoping for it. In Endwalker, and I guess a good thing to talk about is I know they're gonna do it, right? They have to, after the popularity right now, they have to update Chocobo Racing, right?
No, they don't have to. But they've already said that every time we've heard this exact thing in the past, they've done it. It's people go, oh, we didn't think people would miss this, then we didn't do it, and people were upset. So now we're planning on every time they say, we're like, okay, so we're considering, that means they're doing it. They've never once strayed from that. They said they've already picked a location and wrote background story for the Endwalker one. If they're going to, they said, yeah, but we're not sure.
Did they say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they're very
high.
Yeah. So I think it's very reasonable to expect that there's going to be one. I'd be shocked at this point if there wasn't.
I think that he brought this up in one of the conversations I had with Yoshida. He said it right at the end, and I know Angelus did a control find. When we do interviews, by the way, Angelus goes to our interview and does a control F and types in deep dungeon or Palace of the Dead to see if.
Do you ever get upset when you get to DEE and nothing's come up? You don't even.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Guess I'll skip this one.
He just doesn't care. But yeah, no, he was saying that if anything, one possibility might be high difficulty floors of Deep Dungeon series, but stay tuned for future announcements. So they're staying a little bit in the dark for it. I feel like I completely went off track with a lot of things. I haven't looked at this sheet at all. So I don't know what questions we actually hit. But yeah, the appeal of this content is the kind of the exclusivity of the achievement of clearing it. And going through it. And I think that also sparked a lot of stuff in the community. They're like, hey, we gave up on this. Why did we give up? I don't need anyone. I can just do this whenever I want to. That's the other thing, right? You don't have to get a group together. Getting a group together sucks for Palace of the Dead because you can only do it with that group, right? And so you're like, hey, let's do it for a few hours, and when can we get everyone together again to do it again? And then it becomes like a pain.
Yeah, if one person's missing, you can't start it, right?
No.
Yeah, no, you can't.
Yeah. So
runs SOL.
And you only have 2 saves, right? So
yeah. How is HOH? Is it the same setup?
Same setup. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little bit more tolerable because it's less time overall to clear it, so you can get your group maybe together a little bit more for that. But
yeah, I see people shouting outside Heaven on High a lot more than people shouting. Almost every time someone's outside Palace, it's either to like level or it's to solo. I see a lot more shout chat around Heaven on High.
Hold up. There's shout chat that happens for Heaven on High? Like, I thought shout chat was
on Gilgamesh in the evening, I definitely see people saying looking for group Heaven on High 1 to 100. Because there's things people want from in there that aren't just the clear from both Palace and Heaven, but I don't see it as often for Palace. Maybe in the evenings it's a little more common, but I see it more, personally, I see it more for Heaven.
Okay. Because I thought...
Similar system where you can get like pets and mounts and stuff?
Yeah, so you know the accursed hordes? The There's stuff that's like exclusive to those that are on like the really high floors.
Gotcha.
And so people really like those. Heaven on High also has something else, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. That make people want to clear all the way to 100 a little more frequently.
Yeah. Palace of the Dead is the pumpkin when you clear it, right? The pumpkin or the orb, is that right?
Firecrest, yeah. Glass pumpkin or Firecrest.
Yeah. I remember that.
I haven't done anything with mine yet. I gotta figure that out. Should I go get the pumpkin? Which is better, Angelus, the pumpkin or the Firecrest?
I am biased to blue.
Color
the pumpkin. So. Oh, pumpkin.
All right, I'll have to go. I guess I have to go get a pumpkin then, Angelus.
All right, I'm gonna ask you this.
Is she colorblind?
Oh,
very.
Yeah, Happy is
very
colorblind.
I'm not a dog, but it's not good.
What color is Annie's hair, Happy?
That is a great question that we should talk about later. After chat has had a time to chime in for me.
Oh, okay. Okay. You can at least tell what color, what Angelus's favorite color is, can't you?
Well, he told me, so I don't have to look at it. So thankfully, yes, I do now know without having to look what his favorite color is.
Anyways.
I think I can see it. It's red. Yeah, sorry.
Nailed it.
Yep, you got it.
But Annie, I was going to ask you while doing Palace of the Dead, are you still pretty inspired to try to get that 200 achievement? Is that like one of your goals right now? Okay. Is there
so people got impatient with me not going into Stormblood, and I completely understand them as well. So I spent like a week or two doing the POTD things, and now I promised to progress Stormblood a bit. And once I've progressed it a bit more, I'll go back to my daily hours invested to get further.
You still have 2.5 months, before Endwalker. So you got time. You got a little bit of time. You can do it.
Yeah.
It is starting to get a little bit closer.
People are worried. People are worried that I may not have time. So I'll take it a bit more serious. And apparently, as long as I enter Shadowbringers within a month, I should be okay. So that's kind of my time frame right now.
Yeah. I think the worst case. I mean, I'm gonna let you know. I went through Shadowbringer's story, and I watched everything, and I did it at a very casual. Not all right. I don't want to say casual, but casual for some people pace. And I did it in about a week. Right, Shadowbringer's story.
Yeah.
I didn't like hardcore go through. But it's something you want to enjoy, and I think
that's the thing. Like, it's nice to take your time with things.
Yeah, I think what people are kind of afraid of, with a lot of new players coming in and kind of taking their time with the story and everything, as we get closer, they don't want you to ruin that experience. Be like, oh well, crap, I got to be max level, and you have to start rushing through it and stop caring about it when you get closer to the expansion.
Yeah.
So but yeah, seriously, do whatever
I think that's fun.
Perfect universe, you finish Shadowbringers, and then Endwalker Early Access is 2 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But I have also been doing a lot of other side things. Like we talked a bit about Chocobo racing before, and I I've done a fair amount of triple triad as well, trying to get most of the cards that I have access to without furthering, because there's a lot of cards that are locked behind quests that I don't have access to yet because of MSQ. But I'm trying to keep up with having all the cards that I'm able to get so far. I think I'm at like 140 cards or so. And then I've also touched on, since last time, I've done Lord of Verminion now, and Chocobo Racing and Mahjong as well. Yes, I took some time to learn the basics of Mahjong and did a few games of that, but not too much because chat sometimes gets a bit impatient and wants me to do other things. And then I've also been trying to work on some beast tribes. So I'm on the 6th level now on Ixal. And whenever I mention Ixal dailies, people are not very happy. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing.
So are you hitting all the blue quests still, by the way, or are you skipping some?
Oh yeah, I've done all blue quests. I think I'm still progressing Hildebrand, and if relic weapon quests count as blue quests, then obviously I'm not done with that either.
Right.
So those are like the 3 quests currently in my quest log that are not complete. I've done all the other blue quests up to Heavensward.
Man, yeah, not joking when you're saying main side quest. Trying to go through and do all of it. I'm impressed by it. I'm gonna let everybody know again. I have not done all the blue quest. I have not done all my blue quest in the game.
You're missing out.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny? I believe I have it unlocked. I can't remember. I don't know if I have sightseeing log unlocked.
You know what I don't have unlocked?
Huh.
Isn't it automatic with MSQ?
No, I don't think sightseeing log is automatic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's PF. I don't have the esthetician unlocked on my main.
Nice. You've never had to change your haircut.
I've never done it. Never unlocked it on my main.
Wow.
See, that was really important to me going into Stormblood. I was like, guys, we need to change our hair. We need a new hairstyle for the new theme and everything. So I spent a bit of time with my very skilled esthetician to make sure that we were, looking good for the new expansion.
I just sell every hairstyle I find, so I don't need the esthetician.
I went and bought a few that I was missing at the Gold Saucer. And I'm currently using the long hair one from there.
And Angelus is sitting over there like, what the fuck are we talking about? I just want to talk about
There's a hairstyle in Deep Dungeon, I think.
Yeah, there is. I don't know what it is, though, but there is.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you, Annie, do you have any dislikes about what Deep Dungeon is for you right now, Palace of the Dead? Is there anything you've gone through? Or you just don't even think about it, you just enjoy it?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything that I feel I dislike at all. The only thing, I guess, we kind of touched on where you feel locked to a group, I would say is the only negative that I've really experienced. It's also very long, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. No, I'm enjoying it. I think it's good as it is.
Yeah. Do we think that the leveling your weapon system is something that should stay within Deep Dungeon, or is that something they need to just get rid of because it's kind of like just an extra tedious thing, isn't it?
I don't mind it.
But if you're gonna get rid of it,
you need to practice anyways.
I think it's fine because it's not really there for the people who it's technically an obstacle if you've never done it. You're going to solo before, but it's really there for the people who want the weapons to take outside of Palace, keep them going in and I think that's a fine system to have. You just don't interact with it anymore. I think more importantly, something they do in Heaven on High with the same chests, I think is a better approach to give people who are already capped out a reason to open them. Or for Angelus's big brain stuff that I see him do all the time, or at least attempt to do when it comes to the silver chests.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Annie, I don't know if you noticed, but you can, once you hit 99, you get the weapons and you go back to 0 if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, so what I do is you can convert 10 to the grip item. So I use 10 once I finish my run. Like for example, when I failed at 137, I was 99.99, and that's a safe time to go down 10. So I spent 10 to create the grip thing, and then I think I have 2 grips now, 1 or 2. So basically, I just go down by 10, and then you need.
Last did it, Frosty.
Holy crap!
And then you need
I had a
multiple
feeling.
grips to buy the weapon glams.
I
Yeah,
thought
he didn't know. He
zero.
You don't have to go to 0.
He didn't know about the grips because you used to have to buy them like 30 or like you used to have to spend 30-30 or spend 60-60 all at once.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, now you can do 10-10.
Yeah, now you can just lose 10 for 1 grip. So you can buy the grips before Reaper and Sage come out, but get the weapon immediately and then still be at 99.99.
Yes, I'll just do 10 because then it doesn't affect my run too much.
Yeah. I could tell by the look on his face that he's like, as soon as he said go down to 0, I'm like, one of us is going to blow his mind with the grips. As soon as he said it.
Absolutely blew my mind because this stuff bypasses me, man. They'll do like enhancements to the game, little things, and I just don't read all the notes, I guess, and I just ignore the content for 2 years, and I go back, and then holy crap, now you don't have to waste all your points. Man,
great change if that's something that was added later.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Losing 10
And
is
Shadowbringers that got added.
Is it?
Okay.
I think it might have been late Stormblood.
I can't remember.
I think it might have been Shadowbringers they added the grips.
I think it's Stormblood. Yeah, I think it's more Stormblood than Shadowbringers because I do remember some of the small, tiny updates they did in Shadowbringers, but the grips weren't one of them. I think that was a lot earlier.
Okay.
Well, okay. By the way, just to give you my experience with Palace of the Dead, I haven't even cleared 200 with a group.
True story. Me neither.
Really?
That was so. I may not have gotten Necromancer from my solo, but I did get the other one, which is what is the? There's a title for a group, I think, too. For 200, I know there's an achievement, but I don't know. I don't remember the other.
Angelus, do you know?
I don't know if there's a title for a group clear. No, I don't think so.
There's definitely a
Achievement.
there's a,
I
you know,
think
I
it's
know.
just achievements.
I'm thinking 4 clears and Heaven on High has a title.
Yeah, True Hero.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there was one for Heaven on High.
I haven't. So my experience is not as great. I've been going into it and doing like low tier stuff to kind of level up my weapon. That I could burn through those levels if I need to, but and also level up my job because I'm trying to get all my jobs leveled up all the way. And I'm like, might as well do this and get a little bit of experience with it. But
So when are the 4 of us getting your clear?
I don't know. Maybe sometime. Maybe tonight. Maybe we do it tonight, man.
Oh, Annie's not going to be able to do that.
Annie, stay awake after the show, and we'll go.
Just skip sleep. More important things online.
What time is it for you, Annie?
It's coming to 11 p.m.
I'm so sorry.
No, I mean it's okay.
Yeah.
I usually do stay on PC till around like midnight or so. Yeah. So this is not like crazy.
Okay.
This is fine.
All right. I'm going to ask this next question over to Angelus because there is a community around Palace of the Dead. It's not just like people, not just Angelus streaming it and, showing off how ridiculously good he is at this one thing in the game. But Angelus, what is the community for Palace of the Dead like? Like, is it just like a handful of people? Is it like 50 people?
It's pretty big. I mean, especially it's been growing definitely as of recent. But it's just lots and lots of people just trying to do solo runs between people who have cleared, people chasing clears, people hunting down scores, etc. I mean, which was interesting yesterday, we had literally, I think I had, when I was streaming, I had like 6 different people come and tell me they got Necromancer, and I had 6 different people tell me they got Lone Hero like that day. So it's just a continuing like cycle of people just trying it out, trying to learn, trying to get the title, or like I said, trying to get V-clears and such. So it's just a really interesting vibe with the community, and it's fun because I think it was mentioned earlier, like, you're not really competing against other people. This is really just a self-accomplishment. So there's no real like big amounts of soul, big amounts of like drama, if you will. Everyone's just kind of worried about their own thing, and then everyone's also picking the brain of everyone else of like their experience and everything. So it's been a really cool thing to kind of see, witness, and watch grow even as of late. It's really been cool.
Well, like, I'm gonna be honest, drama is in every single community, so if you tell me it's not there, I don't believe you. the housing community has drama. I mean, there's drama in like every
But see, it makes
community.
sense.
Well, you don't have to interact with others, right? In Palace.
Yeah, you don't.
That's what makes it
Mhm.
no drama.
I guess
Because
so.
everyone's just mad at the dungeon. No one's mad at each other.
You can't yell at each other. You failed. It's on you, man.
You have those little rooms, right? You have a little room between the floors. Maybe you can start.
Yeah, you think everyone just like it's like Fight Club on like the little room with the exit in the next set of 10 floors. It's actually I find when you get to that floor, like if you're on like the really high floors and you go to like an in-between section, you see someone else there, you're like, we got it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's that nod. It's that silent nod, like we got it.
Especially on the higher floors, like the
Yeah.
rarity of seeing someone just up there like 150 plus just by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like they.
I mean, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, every single time I watch someone climb, or I was climbing, or just you see everyone from the deep dungeon community just filter in, like minute by minute by minute, and they're just like, "Yo, got this, let's go."
Mhm.
And I've never once seen anyone that was negative. Like if you die, like, damn,
Mhm.
and that's it. Like because they're just upset that you didn't get it for your sake. So I've seen nothing but positivity from the deep dungeon community,
That's awesome.
personally.
That's
Did you,
awesome.
Angelus? Did you notice an increase in the interest lately?
Yeah, big increase, huge increase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
You okay? So you feel it too. That's
Oh yeah,
interesting.
absolutely.
I've had a few people in my community who have been, playing Final Fantasy for longer than I have, and they've come with their stories of like, yeah, I got to like 100 and I don't know 20 a few months ago, but then I was like, yeah, whatever, I don't want to do this at the moment, and the recent interest in doing it and like watching me attempt it as well made them go and do it, and then they finally get it. So I've had a few people come and show off their title because they're so happy that they finally made it. They had given up a few months ago, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's all. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and it's not just WoW players, like you're saying. It's like veteran players who just the interest is kind of
Mhm.
has risen overall in it, and they're like, you know what, I can do that. Most of the veteran WoW players, or not veteran WoW, Final Fantasy 14 veteran players, they have nothing to do, and they forget that, hey, I haven't done this yet, and then they go and do it. And I think, Mike, is that what you did? You were just like, hey, I haven't done this yet. I'm gonna go do it.
So all of Shadowbringers, because Shadowbringers has been through a whirlwind of available time, I guess we'll say. I've tackled things I've never tackled in any other expansion on content. I've never collected all the primal mounts. I would never have fished for 3 months. And among those things
doing it one day.
if you do it more than I did it 3 times a day. That's why it took 3 months. So if you do it more than that, it's usually fine. And among those things was always Heaven on High and Palace. I always said, when you die, it's so heartbreaking every time. So I started with Heaven on High, got through that after I think 8 attempts or something. And then I looked at Palace and I went, it's so long. I don't want to do that. I don't want. And then every day I tune into Angelus's stream, I throw it on and I see him 13 clears, 14 clears, 15 clears. Just every time he gets through, that number at the bottom increases. Oh, he's on floor 180. It's like, oh, I'll just I'll do it. And then like a few runs in, I'm like, it's so long. But then why I said, okay, next run I'll start from 51, and that was the winner.
Yeah. So I'm actually curious, Angela, so you could probably have a lot more clears if you stuck to like one job and you just try to clear it over and over again, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But right now, it does seem like everybody's trying to clear on Machinist or Red Mage. And because it's the easiest to clear on, do you think that anyone will ever start trying to get these harder to complete jobs? Because I mean, I look at Paladin, on Ether, there's only 3 clears for Paladin.
Yeah.
But if you clear on, like, you just have to clear and you get on the leaderboard. But if you're like on Machinist or Red Mage, you get the achievement, but you will not get on that leaderboard. Unless if you
Red Mage
game
maybe,
system.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
Machinist is going to be probably a lot trickier to get on leaderboard. Red Mage, I think, probably still you can just clear and get the leaderboard. But no, I mean, I think honestly, it's tricky because that's kind of the common question that people kind of want to have. What is the quote unquote easiest one to go for?
Mhm.
And it is kind of difficult to kind of point them in other directions when you have like one job that just clearly has more clears. But really, like a lot of the other jobs do have their own capabilities and are clearly capable. You just have to kind of pull a little bit more, or do a little bit more weirder things, if you will, or really pull the kit out of what that job gives to have a little success. I mean, even the one I did recently in Paladin, I would argue that's a solid job. I mean, I just walked in there, hadn't done Paladin for a year, and we just got the clear. But we utilized everything of that kit. But also, to be fair, a lot of the previous experience I've learned since then has contributed to getting a little bit more success with it. So it's a little bit of a skewed result. But still, I mean, there are people in the community who have gotten clears on Ninja as their Necromancer, Monk as the Necromancer. So it isn't impossible. It's just it's just up to kind of your preference.
Mm-hmm.
Even Machinist, I know a bunch of people who've tried it and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do Machinist. I just don't like the job. I can't play it. You can't force it to them. If they can't play it, you can't be like, no, this is the one you go for. It's like, oh, they can't play it. They can't play it. Try another job. Other jobs can do it. So.
Who doesn't like Machinist though? Machinist is a pretty solid job. Really?
It's
Heat blasts.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, ping is also a thing too. Some people have problem if they're playing with a higher ping. Like EU, some of the EU to NA guys have a little bit of a problem with that sometimes. From my understanding, people playing on standard also just kind of just stay away from Machinists because of that. So there's legitimate reasons why people would just be like, no, I'm not going to do Machinist. So
a bit of trivia for you, Annie. There are a good handful of players of EU players who play on NA servers. And one of the reasons for that is because there used to not be EU servers at all.
Yeah, I heard that actually.
In Canada.
That the EU servers were a bit newer, or rather, yeah, they were placed. Yeah, they were located in Canada, the European servers. Yeah. Are they still there, or did they get moved?
No. They're in Germany?
Frankfurt, I think.
Yeah, Frankfurt, Germany.
So is it the same data centers as today, like Light and Chaos? They were in Canada? Is that how it works?
I think they added Light.
Yeah, Light was added. Chaos was
there. But Chaos was there, but it was in Canada.
Yeah, it used to be Aether, Primal, and Chaos, right?
Turn around, Frosty. Turn around.
Oh. They can't see it on stream.
I can now.
It just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. Like I had no clue. She's just.
That's why I was like, he's never gonna look. I got it.
I don't know if I should. You know what? I will drink this. I will drink this. By the way, if I sound a little bit weird, and this is for everybody to know watching the stream, I have these Invisalign trays in my mouth now. And so
you actually don't sound weird.
I don't sound weird at all. I feel like I do.
Not even a little bit. It probably just you feel it in your mouth, but you sound perfectly normal.
I can't stop tonguing it. I hate it. It's painful. But anyways, complete random stuff. But I was mentioning that because there is a lot of EU players who play on NA still, because it didn't matter before, because all the servers were in one spot and they just picked whatever server.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Angelus said that, and it just ringed. Miyuni is the first person I think of usually with that.
He plays on NA?
He plays on NA. He's part of the World First group from back in Evansward. Yeah.
Okay.
He's not anymore though. He's kind of hanging back. He's he's so crazy. Anyway,
also New Zealand. It's New Zealand, North America too. So yeah.
Ooh, this is good. All right. Anyways, milk tea. I love milk tea. By the way, I don't know what your thoughts are, Annie, on milk tea.
Having milk and tea can be okay. Yeah. I'm not a huge tea drinker in general, but
milk tea is really a lot more like how would I describe it? It's not like tea at all. Really, it is, but it's really not.
It's not just tea with milk.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
There's sugar in it, and there's boba, and this one doesn't have any boba in it. Although, why doesn't it have boba in it?
Maybe it has jelly. Does it have the little lychee pearls or
Oh,
something?
there's like nothing. I think maybe it just because the like logo has boba. Why am I talking to the Palace of the Dead, guys? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This is, I'm not gonna lie, this is very reminiscent of my floor 1 to 50 conversations in Palace of the Dead. I'm just get me through this, everyone, please.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that is funny because it does get. That is a challenge of Palace of the Dead, is that it does kind of get a little mind-numbing sometimes. You can kind of get like, kind of on autopilot and run through a trap or hit something and completely ruin your run.
It can happen, but I think that's why it's
Yeah.
also good that it's split up in 10 floors, because then you can kind of like just take a break there. But it is a good point, because on my last 137, it was one of those where I just kind of wasn't really watching, and I just pulled like too much and didn't really use anything defensively either, so it was a bit unfortunate. But yeah, definitely, I assume that it's going to be even more like that when you get in the higher levels.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I had to study Angelus for was not just watching him do it, but I was actually looking for bad situations more than anything else. Now, obviously, you don't want to see someone in a bad situation, but whether or not you know how to handle them is number one.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. I learned a few things in the fails. For example, I once used the Rage Pomander, only to realize it doesn't work because knockback is disabled. So at least I died really early with that, so it didn't really matter. But it would be really sad if it was later on. And there was another thing too, some kind of combination of mechanics that I didn't think about, which also caught me off guard, but I forgot what the second thing was.
Yeah, I've seen just so many crazy situations, like monsters that pull you in while there's another monster that does a point blank AoE sometimes. Hitting a luring trap is obviously one of the biggest ones. Everything I've read, everything I've watched, it's all about, like, if you get an accidental luring trap, you better figure it out very quickly, because it is going to go very poorly. And yeah,
I think the worst that I've seen, which was a gift from a JP player. He was on Scholar. This was in 181 plus, and they were on a gloom floor, and they just turned a corner, and it was a treasure room with a whole bunch of worms, and the worms, just 5 of them, just shot him and instantly killed him.
I almost happened to me, Angelus. I was in my starting room. I looked to the left, treasure room. I was like,
yeah,
just instantly peace. Actually, I had a rage up, so I slapped 3 of them before they went off. But
yeah,
that's. I'm nervous thinking about it.
And it's so crazy because, you know, it's the roguelike atmosphere where it's all random. You don't know. And it's the only thing in the game where it's not like as predictable. Like if you do a raid, after a while, you know exactly what's going to happen every single time. There's a slight variation here or there, and it's nothing. But with Palace of the Dead, this is where you get that excitement and that, like, oh, what's around the next corner? Oh, what's this room going to look like? What is it? There's enough Is there? I guess this is a good question to ask instead of just state this as a fact. Is there enough variation that is very hard to tell what the floor is going to look like? Like you can't sense any patterns in how the floor is going to be or anything when you get there?
Yeah, generally whenever I walk into a floor, I don't even think about what it looks like, if that makes sense, because it is really random. I mean, there are indications of the way a certain room looks like that you can tell if it's like a dead end to some extent, whether just the environment or one of the ones someone in the community pointed out was like if there's a big staircase that typically leads to a dead end. But in terms of the entire floor, the entire map itself, I mean, there are generated ones that are kind of repeated along the lines, but you kind of don't think about, oh, this is the T-shaped room, or this is the one that looks like an S or something like that. I personally don't look at it that way. I just navigate through it, just whatever I see, just deal with it.
Okay.
Because the mobs are different anyways, right? So how the room looks doesn't matter that much.
That's true too. Like whatever spawns kind of is whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's a couple rooms that I had trouble with remembering just out of an experience. Generally, a rule with Palace and Heaven is to hug the wall. There's 2 rooms in Palace that you cannot do that with, and I made a terrible mistake in one of them. There's just 2 rooms where there is a potential trap on the wall, and knowing that room in particular and seeing that room and remembering that is probably the only time I ever cared about like what the layout was.
What's that room?
That's interesting, yeah, because I don't know that.
It's a room with 4 pillars is one of them, and it's one with like an altar kind of against like a wall, I think.
With like big boxes. That's how I kind of look at it. Yep.
Yeah. So those I say it over and over because I'm always just thinking, oh, there's a chest right here on the right. Oh, let me just grab it, and then disaster. So that's it really. Otherwise, I'd say heaven. I care more about the type of room, but it's still you can't do anything about it. It doesn't change the fact that you have no control over it. Although heaven, I think, has a little bit more predictability. I think I've heard people like have like they kind of expect certain things on certain floors, so it alters the way they use commanders and stuff. Like floor 15 is always a big room. That's a really low floor.
Yep.
So is the wall writing mostly because of traps? Like you're trying to avoid them?
The higher potential traps are more dead center, or not dead center, but around the middle of the room. So we've adopted hugging the walls because there's just less traps along them. Well, that's more applicable to the higher floors in Heaven on High. Palace, pretty much up from like 1 to 150. You can hug walls, but you're going to just run into corner traps here and there. Just that's the nature of it. It's mostly because of the way the environment of the room is. Because if you just had like a perfect box, like a perfect square box, if you hug the walls, you'd be fine, which is what you see in Heaven on High. But with Palace, because the rooms are so much tighter, and then you have all these features with like rocks and like pillars and like all that stuff, that kind of pushes you in. So therefore, that in essence, you know, if there was technically a corner trap, it's only because the actual room just pushes you in and kind of makes you step on it to that extent. So
I gotcha. So this is actually a good question to ask you, Angelus, since you've been doing this for so long. What are some tips and advice you can give to people like Annie and myself who might be getting into Palace of the Dead and trying to figure out how to do a solo? What are just some straightforward things that you could say that might help people getting into it?
Expect to lose, really, because any run you go into and you lose, that's a learning experience. So you'll get to a point, you go back in, and then whatever you learned from that first one, you take that experience and then you just try to ride that to get a little bit higher. That's definitely one thing. I mean, I've heard a lot of people saying that they're scared to go to a certain floor, but you know, you don't necessarily go into it assuming you'll get the clear, or if you don't get the clear, you know, it's a bad feeling. No, you're going in there because you're trying to learn something that, you know, even looking up all the information, sometimes some people just have to experience it first. So you experience it, you learn from it, you win, great. If you don't, you learn something, and then the next time you go and you have that personal experience now that you can apply and then try to do it the next time. You know, it's difficult because, of course, you know, you have to spend all the hours to get back up there, but that's part of the process of trying to get the title, trying to get the prog and everything. That's the biggest one that I would definitely tell people. Aside from the super basics of like, you know, hug the walls, don't open a silver chest when your HP is not full, etc., etc. You know, learn your pomanders as well. Those are the super basics. But that first one is definitely a huge one that I think people want to definitely adopt. Because you're gonna learn. It's just gonna take a while. It is what it is. But yeah.
Especially mentally. No, I've been thinking like that too. Like I often feel so. I haven't obviously had that many runs, but when I did fail them, my chat was more upset about it than I was, and I was like, no, like this is okay. Like now I learned something, and it's now I won't do that again. I just remembered another scenario with it was the Rage Commander again, where I decided to click it for this room that had a lot of mobs inside, and I went in just Rambo, and then I realized like, whoa, my HP is dropping very fast. I kind of expected to be more tanky as this Rage Commander. Like I expected to take less damage as things hit me, and then I died because of that. And now that I've learned that, whenever I've been in a similar situation later on, I just pull as if I'm like my normal character, as in one at a time. And that way I'm not randomly getting hit by 5 mobs at once and I won't die. So I do try to use every experience as its own, as a sort of learning thing. So not so much about the number itself. And I've noticed already with with experience that, for example, I would read some guides sometimes on like special mobs to look out for and things like that, but it's impossible to remember because there's so many of them. But I've noticed the more I play, I get used to how things act or how things behave with like around me. So I've noticed, for example, oh yeah, this I don't even remember the names of everything, but like this NPC, I know that I can walk behind it, no problem. Or like this NPC, oh, last time when I stood still, he didn't see me. So you start seeing and making those connections just with experience as well. Whereas when you just read about it, sometimes, for me at least, it can be quite overwhelming and you won't remember everything.
For sure.
Yeah, and a lot of advice that I read online, it didn't make any sense till I was up there. Like there are enemies that I was warned about repeatedly, and I got to them, and I maybe had like one okay attempt against one, and then I would run into another one way overconfident. The clip you played at the beginning against the knight, I was like, I mean, I've watched Angelus do this to kill knights a million times, but he had steel not on a gloomed floor and popped a sustaining potion beforehand and didn't die, unlike me, who got slapped in the face really hard and died instantly. So it was a lot of that. And again, the deep dungeon community, I find, often want you to win so bad, they will give you every little trick that they've ever accrued while you're doing it, just to get you. Like the no knockback floors, there are enemies that pull you in and just beat you senseless, but if it's on a no knockback floor, all of a sudden that monster becomes way safer to fight because it can't pull you in either. So like little things like that, I never even thought about that until I was going through and somebody pointed that out. Or, knowing I can walk past an enemy as opposed to, having to fight through the whole thing. There's so many tricks. It's way more intricate than it looks. And it doesn't matter how many times you watch someone do it. I don't believe you'll understand. You won't have the same decision making in that same situation until you get there and mess it up.
Yeah, no, because when you're there yourself, you're more aware of every single thing that you've done. If you watch somebody else, they'll be doing things that may not be super obvious, and which is the reason why it went the way it did. And I think that mob thing of just realizing which mobs you can walk past, which mobs you have to RP walk next to, I noticed that I was doing that a lot more, even in the shorter experience that I have had. So I can imagine the more you do it, the more used to it you become.
Yeah, and I think that's the same with a lot of things, and it's weird for us because it's just a different kind of skill set that a lot of players aren't maybe used to. For example, like if I watch like a first-person shooter like tournament or something, I'm like, they're just shooting each other. They're just shooting.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're really doing. I don't know that they're having this strategy about how they go around the building and they know the timing of the other team and everything else and where they should be. I'm just thinking, oh, they're pressing the shoot button and they're hitting their targets and that's it. And I think that's probably the same when people are watching Palace of the Dead, which is another interesting point to it is that a lot of people who are watching it who haven't watched it before may not really know what you're doing outside of just trying to stay alive. And that's the excitement. And I mean, and that's excitement enough, I suppose, for people to want to watch that stuff because you're like, I hope they stay alive. I don't know how they're doing it, but they can do it, right? If they can just make it to the next floor. I think that's kind of one of the issues that PvP has in this game too, is that when you're watching it, you have no clue what's going on until someone dies. When I was shoutcasting over at 2018, Mike remembers this. I
was in the crowd shouting the whole time. Yeah,
I appreciate it. But when we were shoutcasting and everything else, like when we were saying like, oh, they're doing this, they're using this skill, oh, they're doing this. Everybody was like quiet. They're like, I don't know what the fuck that means until someone's health gets like really low and they're like, oh, and they all start freaking out. And that's why
I see numbers go up or down. I know it means good or bad. That's it.
Yeah. So on the surface level, and that's something that I'm learning too. Like PvP is exciting only if you're seeing someone die or not die, and all the extra stuff's cool. But most people are just looking at that. When Palace of the Dead is going, they're not going to see all the ability. I mean, it's good to explain some of it, but it's all waste it. Although, Angelus, you're sitting there going through it and you're explaining every single detail that you're doing while you're streaming and all the different benefits and everything else. So it's like watching an educational video on Palace of the Dead every time someone watches your stream.
Yeah, I guess providing like the explanation of why certain things happens probably provides that context to people watching, even if like they are like a first person that they haven't really seen this content yet. Yeah, I guess it does help in that sense that, you know, why did I do this? Oh, this is what happens, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
it definitely makes people go, oh, you know,
Yeah.
if you talk about what you're doing, it's like, oh, that's why. Didn't even notice.
Yeah. So just watching your streams, like they may be there just to see, oh, can he make it? Can he make it to the next level? But while they're listening to it, they'll hear something. You're like, oh, maybe I'll retain that, and then they can use it in their run later on. Maybe, maybe not. Because again, I was thinking about looking up guides, but I was like, fuck that, man. You know what? I'm just gonna go in there and die, and people, you know, I'll learn each time. Because look, I can see Mike's face.
There are spots I think you could do. I think you could do that for a lot of it. But Angelus knows I'm already thinking of one spot you will never pass without the research, unless you're willing to die a lot. Because there's one particular part of Palace that I know there's no way I would have taken the time to figure it out if someone hadn't done it before me, and it's so late in the run that it still took me 3 tries to get it right the first time, and even then I still screwed it up. Angelus remembers it's just one old tap on the forehead that scared everyone.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't, you know, I'm not like intentionally avoiding like being told information or anything, but at the same time, like I'd rather just be in there, and I'd rather just start killing stuff and seeing what happens and just use that experience to go forward. And when I hit a wall, like a boss or something, I'm like, how the hell do I clear this? Then maybe I'll go look up something and figure it out. But it's not going to make sense to me until I'm like there looking at it in the face, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was my experience too. Like when I was linked one of the guides, I was like, whoa. What is this? So much information. It's a lot of information. Even if you try to sit there and learn everything, that alone would take many, many hours. And in many cases, you may not even understand it because you don't have the context for it. So I think just going in somewhat blind is not a bad idea. And as you go and things get harder, then you can look it up. And it's okay to become cautious suddenly because maybe something looks extra scary. Like when I saw Moorball for the first time, I was like, should I be scared of this? And then people were like, some said yes, some said no. And I was like, you know what? I have all my cooldowns. I'll just go for it. And then I kind of like learned with that as well. Sometimes you get punished and just die. And sometimes you might make it, depending on what kind of abilities the mob has.
Yeah. I think the best thing in Palace, from my understanding, is if it cast, it's awesome. It's a good monster to try to kill, right? Casting monsters are great. No?
Sort of.
Why?
Because they don't attack. They just
if
sit
you
there
have
and
an
they cast.
interrupt.
No, you don't interrupt
like
it. You just get out of the way.
No, yeah.
Well, I mean, sorry,
monsters that
AoE,
use abilities, that like spam abilities and aren't autoing you, sure. Monsters that just cast spells as their auto attack, very different.
Oh, well, yeah. Not that.
Because they can be a little scary depending on the job, because then you don't... Heaven on High, they're kind of a blessing. Palace of the Dead, only seldom are they a blessing. Depends on where you are.
I mean, you can line of sight the monsters as well, right? So, I mean...
Well, that's the thing. Heaven on High is way easier to do. Like, the rooms are built to do it in Heaven on High. In Palace, there's only some rooms you can do it. So it's a little scarier.
Yeah.
So... And that just, again, that comes with experience. I almost died to a bunch of casting mobs at first. I was like, why is it tough? I don't go, I can't do anything about this.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing is that running is a whole nother tactic of its own, because monsters spawn and everything else, and you have to figure out how to run and look and pay attention to everything around you while you're moving around, instead of just blindly running away from the one thing that you're trying to attack, right?
Yeah, you gotta worry about patrols. You gotta worry about the respawns. And in Palace, the respawns are pretty fast too, and they have a pretty disgusting habit of spawning on top of you, which happens to me like literally all the time. So it's stuff you have to worry about, you know, on a constant basis, that you just have to stay alert, and you don't get caught off guard.
Yeah, I know my biggest habit that even still almost killed me in my successful run is seeing a gold chest and thinking too much about opening it. Because you know how many times I've entered a floor and I look down 3 hallways, see a patrol or 2, and then think I'll grab this gold chest real quick, and it's a mimic. It's a situation I've had to play through way too many times for my own intelligence. I'm insulted by myself that I never learned my lesson. I'm just like, ooh.
A quick history lesson on mimics. They made those easier, didn't they? Since it came out, they like.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What did they do?
Kind of. Overall, the deep dungeon damage has reduced a little bit from Heaven's Ward till now, but in Shadowbringers, they did allow jobs that had interrupts to stop their pox, which was not present before Shadowbringers, and that was really interesting because in 5.0 you could do it, but it wasn't intentional, and they in a different patch that actually fixed something that was really broken with deep dungeon, they decided to like patch that, which then it wasn't working. And then in like 5.1, they're like, actually, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's put it back in. Officially put it back in, and now that's a thing that you can stop it with interrupt. But that's a
red mage.
Yeah, red mage can't do it. But that was a big deal, because that really opened up a lot of other jobs. Honestly, like
Absolutely.
machinist and tanks and whatnot that you just don't have to deal with pox, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so funny how horrible mimics were to people that like you really couldn't do it much because of the mimics in general. If you get bad RNG and the mimic kind of ends it, but that the silence kind of helped that out. And so I don't know. Here's another question, and this is probably something a lot of people who are familiar with Palace of the Dead know. But is it clearable with every single job?
It has been cleared with every job, yes.
Every job. Okay.
That's very, very keen wording. He said has been cleared. He didn't answer the question directly.
Been.
It's been done. I'm not going to tell
recommend.
you. I'm going to be careful about my words here.
So
Yes,
what are the ones that have like 1 clear or 2 clears or the least amount of clears overall?
Black Mage probably has 3. Astro probably has 2 or 3. Bard is probably the one that's up there too, and Dancer's a little bit more. Bard's probably the one that's also very limited on clears. Dark Knight as well. Those are the ones that are typically the hardest. I mean, healers in general too are hard. Scholar, White Mage, but Astro would be the one that's just clearly more difficult between all the other 3 healers. For sure.
And so a lot of like the ones that can't do a lot of damage overall is the challenge, or what's
Yeah, I mean, Behemoth is the one that always stops many jobs. So that's why Bard, Dancer, Dark Knight in particular have a unique issue to get through them. Whereas other jobs like even comparing Machinist to the other 2 physical range, that's a huge difference because Machinist has a legit burst and is focused more on damage, where Bard and Dancer you have to do some really hugely galaxy brain strategies just to pass through Behemoth. So yeah.
Yeah, if there's a single part of Palace that never felt like it was meant to be soloed, it's the end of Behemoth. It feels like they never made that with the intention of you having to beat it in such weird ways. Because you know the dev team, there's no way they thought of half the way that the community thought of to do those. There's no way. I refuse it.
Yeah, if you want a perspective, Frosty, of what we're looking at, so let's take healers and red mage on Behemoth. That's easy game because it's just heal through Ecliptic Meteor, and then just keep doing damage until it's dead. That's easy. Even for healer, it's easy. Just 1 cure through. Machinist is just get a burst in, line up your burst, get your gauge in, do a burst that has damage. It's difficult, not bad. Tanks would be down there where you have to literally line up. Your like even do a tincture sometimes, the stat potions, and just like correctly do your rotation for a long period of time without messing up to do it correctly. Some jobs are very tight, and then you have something like Bard, which giving credit to Alithia and Treno and Norbon and JP who were working on this for so long, that strategy became it involves 2 resolutions where you have to start open with a resolution, smack it with a resolution, do a whole bunch of damage with your typical damage, and then you also have to line up your sustaining potion on a very specific server tick so that you would get 4 ticks of sustaining potion between a meteor, otherwise you die, and then finish off with a resolution to kill it. And that's like the only play of Bard to pull that off on 180 because it's a very, very specific strategy that strategy in particular does not involve RNG, so there's no crit variance, there's no direct hit variance. It's just you have to do all of that to clear Behemoth on Bard specifically. right now.
Same boss that does the sort of enrage thing where it starts casting and it takes 80% of your and it's at a higher difficulty. Gotcha.
So depending on the kit of the job, it could depend on what you have to do, which is where when Endwalker kicks in, that's going to be an interesting thing to see, because if they make any adjustments to potencies or job abilities, you're probably going to see very, very different strategies come out of there when we get that. So
Jesus.
That's insane. Yeah, no, that's like really tight to have to try to time that on the server tick to make it work exactly how you want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's doable. It's just I don't even look into it, honestly. I know what the strategy is. I'm not even looking into it right now. It's just so big brain. I'm gonna do other jobs first before I go into there, but it's just so big brain on that one. Like you time it with like you look at the tick on the regen to see what shows up on your character or something like that to monitor how that goes, and then push Behemoth at a certain point so that you get that tick. It's crazy.
If you've played Monk at the beginning of Stormblood, it's like the Annotment opener, but for bards getting a sustaining potion. That's the best thing I could think to compare it to is just needing that server tick.
Yeah. There was some questions about like Black Mage, being very difficult. Is the same thing trying to get through that fight as a Black Mage? Is you have to be on like such a high level of thought, or what?
Not really. I mean, the setup is difficult, but essentially, if you get the setup okay, then it's just fire them down. So it's not as bad as I would say. Tank is harder, in my opinion, than a Black Mage. So yeah.
So where does the challenge for Black Mage really come in, and why is it such a low clear rate?
It's the higher floors. Its kit is also terrible at 60. It's way better at 70. All you have on Black Mage at 60 is Swiftcast and Thundercloud. Everything else is a hard cast. You have ley lines, but you can't do between the lines. So it's essentially you trying to manage your hard casts while not dying with like your paper defense on Black Mage and balancing all of that. So that's why it's really, really difficult on Black Mage, because all of your damage, all of your main damage is hard casting. So if you're not able to hardcast because you have to stay alive, then you have to figure out a way to do damage. You have to figure out a way to get your casts in before you die, etc.
And you also get interrupted if they hit too hard.
Yeah, that's still a Palace thing. That doesn't happen too often in Heaven on High unless you witching. But yeah, Palace still has that problem of interrupts, because I think they took that out, I think. But if you just get hit hard, you just get interrupted on your cast.
Yeah, no, I forgot about that. There's a lot of stuff in Palace
because it's in the clip you played at the start. Because my resolution cast gets interrupted.
There's some crazy. The only thing that I think is kind of crazy is there's some like old school things that you don't really think about this in Palace of the Dead. For example, the hearing aggro versus the sight aggro. Is there blood aggro in that?
That's Eureka exclusive. That's Eureka? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's just proximity, sight, sound for Palace and Heaven. There's no magic either. No magic aggro either.
What does blood aggro mean?
Low health. So like in some zones in the game, if you're low on health and like there's a skeleton or like a ghost, all the undead, they'll swarm you immediately.
Oh, okay. Even if you're out of combat.
Even if you're out of combat. But it's a Final Fantasy XI thing that they like brought over to certain areas in the game.
Okay.
It's so interesting. I feel like Palace of the Dead was kind of like one of those things where like, all right, let's have some fun with this. I mean, I feel like they do that with a lot. Final Fantasy XIV does that a lot, don't they? They just like, hey, you know what? Let's throw this content in here. Old MMOs used to do this. We can't really do it in the main game. Let's just throw it into this content and make them go through all this stuff. Eureka being like the big example of all that too. But I mean, like, it makes me really appreciate the thought that the Final Fantasy XIV devs put into their content, right? It feels like they're actually thinking, hey, this would be cool, and I want to make this happen, and put all these little bits and details into it, versus just saying, hey, you know what? The players kind of want this. Let's throw something in there that's kind of like that. So, I mean, we won't talk about Lords of Verminion, but...
Well, I will say, like, a lot of the stuff we're doing now with Deep Dungeon, I would say, is a little bit leaning more towards just things the community have figured out and just are pushing. But I definitely will also say the scoring system was one that must have been very interesting, because the scoring system has been there since the beginning, and we've only recently kind of dissected it. And that, to your point about the intricacy of what they involved into it, like what Deep Dungeon has been out, like I said, for since 2016, and only to figure out the scoring as of like last year or like a year and a half, and to see all of the details coming into like what they put into it, it was actually pretty mind blowing. To know that that system was just sitting there since Palace and then transferred into Heaven on High, and even Heaven on High had some adjustments to the scoring system as well. Very, very, very interesting. A lot of thought put into the content for sure.
I wonder why they don't make that information public. Right?
They've actually they've commented. They said there's some things in the game they really just want the community to figure out. Like I think Yoshi P comes from like Dark Age of Camelot and like Ultima Online. And, like he's played a lot of that stuff where it's not given to you. So like there are just some things that it seems like the dev team want you to uncover. And it doesn't change. Like for the average person, the scoring system, as intricate as it is, it's not gonna impact. Like when you're going for 200 for the first time, no one's like, man, let me open this extra gold chest. I have 2 minutes left. Let me open this extra gold chest for the points. No, they're just going. You know what I mean? So
Annie, is that a Guinness that you're drinking?
No, it's a Monster.
Oh, okay. I thought
It's just an energy drink.
Monster,
No,
it's Monster Guinness.
You're drinking an energy drink.
I'm not
like...
drinking alcohol.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I mean, I love Guinness, dude. I usually go. That's my beer of choice right now. But
I don't really drink beer either.
No.
So I would drink wine, I guess, but yeah. No, I don't
Red?
really drink beer.
Whiskey here.
Red is okay. White is
okay.
also nice.
That's fine. Yeah, I should have realized it was a
I just
Monster.
like the taste of it, so I just like take a few sips sometimes. It doesn't actually give me energy because I don't drink enough. But, yeah.
What? Oh, because you take a few sips of the Monster. Yeah, I should have known it because I see the fridge in the background. Like, why?
There's Guinness in that fridge, Ross.
Oh, I love Guinness.
Guinness in the Monster fridge.
Oh gosh. So let's say if Angelus, Mike, if I get into Palace of the Dead right now, knowing like barely anything, you could tell my knowledge level from this show so far, my recent experience, and I was like, man, I just want to clear this with Paladin. How reasonable is it for me to clear it like in a month or 2 months or something like that?
Depends how much you study. I mean, let me think of it this way, right? If you go in blind, you're welcome to go in blind, but what it took one person 2 years to eventually clear it. So, you know, if you want to do it blind, it'll probably take you a long time. But there's a lot of information out there now. Like, you know, I did the run recently, but there's a lot of other people who put out information. You know, you have Mage's main guide that's out there. So honestly, depending on how much you study, could determine how fast that you will go. And that's really what it comes down to. Like I said, I think like you could look at all the resources available. You could look at all the resources available and just know exactly what you're walking into per sets of 10 floors, and then work it that way. But that's going to be up to you to decide.
Because I mean, the guides are kind of like broken down like that, right? Some of the main guides people follow is like, this is the 10 floors, this is the boss, this is the mob you'll run into, this is how you deal with it on this job. Isn't that right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, like I've done. I mean, I do full runs, and I try to explain as much as I can in the stream itself. So I don't like go back into the video and just re-explain everything. But in essence, you could just watch the run and see how it goes. I know people have told me, which is really interesting to me. Like I know like the long videos tend to be weird, you know, just uploading an 8-hour one. But people use the videos. They have it on another screen, and they're like running it with me as they're going through it. I'm like, oh, that's actually interesting. Okay. But that helps them because they see as they're going through the floors, they can like run into the same enemy. What do I do with that enemy? And what do you do with that enemy? And that's a very interesting perspective. So things like that can aid you as well. And then have Mage's guide as well if you want to go for the written one. So stuff like that.
That's awesome. Annie, how are you doing it right now? How are you tackling Palace of the Dead?
So before each boss, I ask for like a general description of general idea of abilities that it has. For example, this one spawns 2 bees. If you don't deal with them, they will do this. Or this boss has this color bomb. This color bomb needs to die. This color bomb needs to like be pushed in or whatever. So I do ask for like the general perspective or general mechanics of the boss. And I sometimes also have Mage's guide open as well to just get like a general idea of the boss. I oftentimes don't really understand until I try it myself. but it does give a good like general idea at least for it. And what I have also done is so I was running POTD with a group where I was soloing everything. So they were just there, but I was actually doing everything, and that was allowing me to try things as well, and also potentially die, but still get rezzed, and I can still continue the run, especially past 100. Because if you down your solo run, you have to start over from the beginning, or you have to start over from 51. So doing it like a group like that also makes it a little bit more forgiving, I guess. You can still keep on going. But yeah, so I do read general descriptions of what the boss does, and then I go into it. With the NPCs on each floor, I first did read everything, and then I realized that I'm not really learning by reading it. I'm learning more by seeing it. So with mobs, I no longer read them floor by floor. I just kind of go in. Once I kill something, I do sometimes ask, like, does this one really not do anything else? Or I might peek at the guide to see if there is anything to know about it. But in general, I don't really read about mobs anymore. But I do read right before pulling a boss.
Okay. By the way, your chat has to be awesome if you can get like clear answers and they.
I'm telling you, even it's deep dungeon. Everyone in the chat is always so good. It's just it's a universal thing.
I mean, sometimes I get wrong information. That happens too.
I find that a lot of times that I get slightly wrong information is either from different job perspectives. So one of the big things is the handbook is mostly written for a red mage's perspective. So I didn't go through on a red mage. So when like there were certain warnings about things and like dealing with them, there's sometimes like a cliff note for like machinist or another job. Right. But getting the proper resources for the job that I was on was actually like a super important thing. Knowing that this mob says impossible, but there's a method with which that if I'm trapped, I actually can do it because I'm playing a job that isn't red mage, which is what the main one is written for. But it still gives me that kind of insight into the monster. Like it still explains everything the monster does. And then I just need that little bit of an extra hint that says, no, okay, as long as you do this, you can actually do that. So that was super useful. But I know, Annie, you're doing it the full run on red mage, right? When you go through all the way to 200. So that handbook is going to be very, very useful. That's definitely a primary like red mage resource.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that, but that's good to know.
My favorite is the one where it says, "Do not fight this; you will die." That's just the clip.
That's funny. Yeah, I actually picked up red mage specifically for this. So I've been playing summoner as I've been playing the game, and it's been okay, but it hasn't been like the most interesting gameplay, I guess. And then I heard about Palace of the Dead, and people were saying Machinist and Red Mage are the most popular choices for it. I've always been a caster, so I went towards Red Mage then, and I tried it, and I actually ended up really enjoying it. So that's why I decided to level it to 60 as well, because it was 50. I decided to level it to 60 as well before jumping into Stormblood, because I actually want to play Red Mage. It just feels good to have... so one of the things that I did enjoy with Summoner while doing my trials and whatnot was the fact that I could res people. And I learned that Red Mage can also res people. I like that utility. So I'm fine in terms of that type of content with raids with my community. Yeah. And then in terms of the solo content in Palace of the Dead, the heal actually heals. Like, people laugh at me when I use my heal as summoner in my raids. They're like, remove that thing from your bars, it's so bad. And I'm just like, but I just want to, give people a quick heal, like they're dying, or maybe heal myself real quick. It's like, no, you might as well just delete that ability. It's so bad. So playing Red Mage and having a heal that actually heals feels good. And I also enjoy the dual cast mechanic. And then I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of the whole going into melee thing, but it's still pretty cool. It feels cool to do that and jump out and stuff like that. So yeah, I've just kind of re-rolled Red Mage for sure now.
Yeah, like when we were doing a show last time you were on, Annie, and we were talking to Jesse, and he was like, yeah, I played Black Mage and it didn't really work for me, but it got on Red Mage and he was like obsessed, and he just loved Red Mage so much. And
was that what it was? Because I remember him talking about a class, but I didn't remember which one it was, and that makes sense.
He's a Red Mage, and it's an, you know, there's some people who hate it, there's some people who love it, but it is definitely a res mage. Like it is it's better than healers at resing people. How insane it is, because you just get a swift cast. Like every cast, you're like, hey, I can do another.
Listen, I feel like that's disrespectful to red mages, because and when you make them do it 3 times in a row and they can't DPS, I think everyone forgets that red mage ain't made of mana. They got a limit, and I know so many red mages that'd be out here, and the healer's like, well, you got it, right? And the red mage is like, okay.
I mean,
I've had runs with my community, like trials and stuff, where I'm literally just casting res to get everyone up again to be able to clear some stuff, and it's fun. Like, you know, we're just casually doing stuff, and I like having that utility, even if it feels not so fun to cast it. So red mage, yeah, I'm excited for it to play it in the raids as well, because I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a support job, right? It feels like a DPS
it's like
support job.
But you're still doing damage too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, like utility mixture.
Yeah.
Please think you're red mages, man. Please, healers. White mage, you have thin hair. Please just line it up.
So it's like, as summoner, I tried resing and it wasn't optimal. I also tried healing and it wasn't optimal. And now there's a class that can do those 2 things better. So it just makes my playstyle better.
Yeah. Annie, you got a ways to go. There's so much content in this game for you to absorb. And it is awesome to see, like how much you've been doing so far. Like every time I talk to you, I'm like, God damn, Annie's better gamer than I am, 100%. Like, holy fuck.
Low bar, Frosty.
Yeah, it is a low bar. To be fair, it is to be fair. But you know, she starts talking about how she's analyzing. Yeah, you're just like going through it, but you're analyzing everything. You're thinking about it. You're being super logical and being like an intelligent person, intelligent gamer. And I'm like, hey. I never think of any of this shit. I just played a game.
Thank you.
But yeah, of course. And you know, when I get Mike on, I don't expect anything from this dude.
I give you a hard time the whole time, just like you do when you're on mine.
Yeah.
Mutual.
We go on each other's podcasts every once in a while, and you know, just give each other shit.
Yeah, where's we don't have a State of the Realm shirt. Where's the Sly and Happy shirts for that?
You want me to wear 2 shirts? At the same time?
Yeah.
Send them to me.
State of the Realm
Yeah, just make a State of the Realm shirt, or just send me a shirt.
Actually, we've been meaning to do one, to be fair. Sly and I have been meaning to do one. So.
Jeez, God.
I'll send you one.
Oh, by the way, everybody, if you want MogTalk merchandise, go to my Patreon and sign up, and you'll get MogTalk merchandise automatically by being a Patreon supporter.
One.
Nah, and you won't get that shirt. That shirt's shit.
Compliment on it at the grocery store.
Really?
Yeah, they said, "Oh my God, I love your shirt," and I said, "Oh, do you know what MogTalk is?" They said, "No." I just like Moogles.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah,
that's
huge.
Cool.
That's huge. So great thing I got that for a logo. So I will say I do have the fear. There's always that little bit of fear. Like I'm not known enough for anyone to really recognize me outside of this one little universe that we're in. But I do have fear that one day someone like at my work is gonna like play Final Fantasy 14 and they're gonna say something to me. I'm like, my life's over. Because I keep that completely separate. So I don't know. Like
I remember one person that I had like cut contact with completely since I went to school, and then randomly they DM'd me on Twitter, and I was like, whoa. This is so weird. But I've had really good experiences with people in Sweden, like when I've gone to events where they didn't know me streaming, but they just randomly met me, and they see that I'm streaming there at the event, and then that's been quite interesting. Luckily, the fact that they're there means that they're gamers too.
Yeah.
And so it kind of became a positive experience. But it's it's still funny how sometimes two worlds kind of combine into one.
You guys have way better, way safer and better interactions in this regard. The only time I've ever had that, 2 times, somebody took a picture of me 3 aisles over at an electronics store and then and said, which is really weird.
That's horrible.
Wait, they took a picture of you without you knowing?
Yeah, without me knowing. Just because they did, they said they were too nervous to come up, so they just took a picture. And the other one was I ordered takeaway, and the driver saw that my business name on like the order, and he found my Facebook and asked me on a date. So those are the only 2 DMs I've ever gotten in these cases.
That is.
Oh my
You have
god.
way better interactions with this than I do.
Oh my god.
I haven't had any.
I had one
horrible
person once mention he was just like, he just put it really short. Yeah, I saw you at the alcohol store.
the alcohol store.
Okay, you didn't want to say hi or anything? No, like I wasn't sure what to say, but yeah, I just saw you there, and I was like, oh god, like that's a really great impression, like that's where you find me outside.
Yeah. Angelus, all these things you got to look forward to, man. Your stream's starting to blow up, dude. Like you're blowing up a lot with Palace of the Dead. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, it's coming.
Weird. Imagine Angelus going through the grocery store like a floor of Palace of the Dead.
Just like planning out, I can't go down this aisle because there's these NPCs over there blocking it, and I know they might come this direction, so I'm just going to go around and do this little hook shape so I can go to the other side of them.
He opens the egg carton and there's broken eggs in there, and that's a mimic. All right, that's a mimic.
Yeah, human RNG.
Yeah.
Very real human RNG. Very real.
Oh, well, I know we're kind of going off on a tangent here, but I guess that we kind of hit all of our topics that we wanted to go for. And I feel like this has been a fun conversation in general. I'm going to ask you this, Angelus, if you had one thing you wanted to tell Square Enix about the next iteration of Deep Dungeon, what would you tell them?
Make it. That's about it. Right?
Quick answer.
Do it.
Yeah.
Because we don't have it confirmed yet, so we're just kind of. There's obviously info suggesting it is, but just confirm it. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I care.
Okay. Mike, if you want to say anything to Square Enix?
Yeah. So when I went through Heaven on High, and then I went through Palace of the Dead, I saw a lot of the pros and cons of the design of both of them. And while I give Palace a lot of grief for being really long and boring on that regard, I think it's way better designed. Like as a whole package, the higher floors, like the level of play that can go into them, or the level of like understanding like when and where to use like commanders and certain stuff. I felt like it was way more interactive. Heaven on High was me praying to Heaven on High to please let me through. And Palace always felt like more my fault. So I really prefer that experience of knowing that, okay, oh man, because when I died, I just went, all right, I made that mistake there. Like that's clearly me. Heaven on High, it's like, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm looking at this and you've been destroying me for the past 10. I don't know what you want me to do. And it was just tears and anger every time. So look at what you did well on the higher floors of Palace of the Dead. Look at the kind of things you did with Heaven on High that are kind of not interesting. Like there's like these animals that are just a super uninteresting mechanic for the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And kind of find a middle ground, because they're going to want to do something new like they did with Heaven on High and some of the changed like items that are in there. Make sure that you don't forget what Palace of the Dead was initially, because I think you were closer to hitting the mark on those higher floors than you were with Heaven on High.
Okay. Angelus, I want you to react to his statement to Square Enix and tell him if he's wrong or right on that.
No, I agree.
Okay.
The thing with Heaven on High, I do feel Heaven on High was kind of a quality of life adjustment to whatever Palace was. Like, they tried, right? Even what was mentioned about the silver chests being basically now important from where in Palace it was essentially useless because you just got Aether Pull, or later on you would do the exploding chest. So there was clear quality of life things, but I agree with some of the things that was mentioned in terms of just finding that middle ground of the best of this, the best of that, and then formulating it to the next deep dungeon. I mean, especially because we've had so much experience now. I'm pretty sure, you know, they can delve into or ask people about what they think is cool, and then probably work with that, in my opinion, too, right? So.
Yeah. That's a good question to ask Annie. Annie, what's cool about Palace of the Dead? Is it, besides the achievement, what's cool about Palace of the Dead?
The experience, the journey.
The journey.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, because it's not something that you go and, like, you know, just get done, right? So it takes time. So it's like a learning progress thing. So the fun is the bit of adrenaline and lots of things to learn, and yeah, the journey.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think I do have the fear that they're going to see that there's a solo community for it, and then they're going to build the content to be solo clearable, and it's going to be too easy. The bar is going to be too low because they aim for it to be cleared solo, and I'm kind of afraid of that.
I'm not, because like I said, they added Necromancer with Stormblood and then released it. Like, they knew soloing was a thing already. People had already been asking. They added achievements for it. They were already aware when Heaven on High happened. So I think
it is possible that then they make it more. It is possible that they make it more obtainable in that sense. Then, right? Like, if they notice that going solo is popular, then they might try to make it a little bit easier. I mean, you could argue that is what happened with HOH, right? The fact that it's shorter probably has more clears, doesn't it?
I mean, also, I mean, even just the one enemy in Palace, which is Behemoth, not being a thing in Heaven on High, we have to deal with an enrage that doesn't block certain jobs. That was kind of a thing too. But I don't know. I don't know. I would probably disagree with you, Frosty. That they would consider it making it easier. But I think even right now, people are kind of pushing that limit, right? Like maybe if we hadn't had all the clears in the jobs and all these clears that we have now, and still sitting at like sub 50 of the amount of people clears, maybe they will be like, maybe we should tune it down. I think Heaven on High was, in a sense, kind of tuned down a little bit versus Palace of the Dead to some extent. I mean, there are difficulties part of it, but Heaven on High was kind of the first one we started seeing other jobs clear outside of Red Mage. But now that maybe they're seeing it getting, I wouldn't say crushed, but lots and lots of people are soloing, maybe they go the other direction and kind of think, oh, like, actually, maybe we can tune it up a little bit, you know, that there's interest to it, that people are engaging in it, that we could even put more of a thought into it to make it challenging, etc. That's what I think personally.
Yeah, I think quality of life accessibility is more likely. Like, a big thing is the sustaining potions. If you're starting from no sustaining potions, that's not fun. Like, just grinding the pot shards. So, like, maybe like accessibility to those, not making it just RNG drop from like bronze chests. I could see them doing that, because that gets a lot more people in the door. That is a huge stopping point for someone who's brand new, is to tell them, oh, you don't have any of these? How many do you need for a run? Like 700. And it's like, I don't have any. It's like, well,
I'm still not using them.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Red Mage is really nice for actually accruing them. Doing it on Machinist was a little weird. So I think
because I can heal.
Yeah, you can heal. I'm just like second wind and run. That's all I got. So I think the accessibility down, the barrier for entry for even like considering going in, down. I think they do tune it up. I agree with Angelus. I think they're going to see more interest in it, and we're going to see more difficult decisions that you have to make in there.
Well, the only
reason, because I feel like.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I was going to say the only reason why I think that is maybe something that they might not do is because they might still, even though it happened so long ago, be scarred from, creator, or not creator, Gordius. They're scarred from, like, because what they did is by the way, Annie, they had all the raids and everything in A Realm Reborn, and then they did this huge hike on a Savage tier on the very beginning of Heavensward, and it killed raid groups. Like, tons of groups disbanded, and it was just really, really rough because they tuned the difficulty too high. And I feel like Square Enix might still have that scar that they look at every once in a while, and they're like, we can't do it too difficult. We just can't do it because it's just going to make people upset and give up. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's different for Palace of the Dead.
I just think Deep Dungeon, it's not about how, like, the bosses don't need to be savage bosses. They don't need to be, like, debuff here, or, like, unavoidable AoE if you're standing here. It's all about decision making on a floor to floor, enemy to enemy basis. That is the key to like deep dungeon. So if they remove a lot of that decision making, that's where it becomes easier. But I don't think they have that problem. I don't see that issue with Alice. I don't see it with Heaven on High, and I don't see why their monsters aren't complicated. They're just random, and there's a big variety of them. So I just don't see them bringing the bar down. Like there's like I don't think you can bring it down much further other than making them hit like wet noodles. And I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah. Annie, I interrupted your point.
The thing that I wanted to say, no worries. I wanted to say that it's like a clear trend in many games, in World of Warcraft and just other games in general. The more modern a game becomes, they tend to try to make it more accessible and quote unquote easier. But I would hope that it's not the case, because I think the more difficult something is, and the more exclusive and more challenging, the more interesting it becomes, at least for a sort of niche group of people. And I think having those parts of a community is important and really good. Basically.
And I would say that Final Fantasy XIV is like one in a really great spot right now because of how much content it has that doesn't take a lot of difficulty and appeases a lot of people who don't want high difficult content. You have so much stuff that you can do, and it's one of the most social games I've seen in a while. Like, definitely recently, it's been like in-game socially way more of an MMO than I've seen from a lot of other MMOs. Although my experience goes with just WoW and Guild Wars and a couple other games. But I think that, you know, this game feels like they can add challenging content and not ruin it for people who don't want challenging content, if that makes any sense. It depends, but they just can't put haircuts in there. You can't put like really hard to get haircuts.
There's good money in deep dungeons. Like I wouldn't go there for money, but there's some good money.
Yeah, but you can't make stuff that you would want for, you know, like
sure
if you
can.
Because then people will get mad because they're like, I can't get this because I have to do stupid content.
There's already a couple mounts in there. You can go further. There's like 3 mounts already that require some deep dives.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Oh yeah, there's a mount from floor 150, right?
Yeah, the gold trim sacks that you get. Yeah, you can get a mount. True story. My very first gold trim sack when it first came out, got the mount.
Nice.
Wow.
What's the percentage on that?
Not high.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not high.
Someone in my group, the group that I went to 200 with, it was our first run together, and one of them also got it.
Yeah.
In the run that I was in, basically.
Wow.
But I did not.
You know, you just got to do it again. You start getting them when you're doing your solo runs, and only you will get it, right? You're not, you know, no one else is getting it.
Well, to be fair, it's not like anyone can.
No one can take it from me then, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like potsherds where somebody actually takes your potsherd and you're like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, quality of life. Everyone gets potsherds in groups of 4 in the next
That'll
one.
be good.
Please. There's no reason to make the potion such a pain to get.
Yeah. All right. We can go ahead and start wrapping up. We've had I think a really good conversation today, and it was awesome to get all of you together. Because Annie, I know you're newer to the community, but I'm having a blast having you in the community. I think you've been a great addition so far. So thank you for coming on again.
I'm loving being here.
Yeah.
Like when you mentioned it and talking about POTD and stuff, like I realize I'm the least experienced here, but it's still fun to talk about, and seeing other people be more invested than I am, then I feel more that I have a goal to strive for, which makes it more exciting.
Yeah, it's a hell of a goal too. I mean, Angelus apparently he has a lot of goals with Palace of the Dead to try to achieve.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like we got a lot of different perspectives here because I wanted to get like. I'm always the idiot, right? That's just me. I'm the idiot. But I wanted to get someone who's kind of getting into it and someone who's been playing the game for a while. And I didn't know if Mike was going to clear it by the time he got on the show. But
I told him I would. I told him I would. I told him I'd be fresh off
and
of
he
failure.
didn't believe you.
Yeah.
And then I cleared it the very next time, so I was lying regardless.
Yeah. And then, of course, the super experienced Angelus to come on and kind of give us his perspective as well. I think that
I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't watched Angel.
Yeah,
I'm so glad to have
hearing
him on
your
the show. I
comments
straight
on
up
this
wouldn't
too.
have cleared if not for him.
Yeah, I think
Like, reading the guide's not enough.
I'll be honest with you. I think there would be a lot less people who have cleared
I agree.
if it wasn't for Angelus. So
I completely agree.
there's that too. But
Maybe just less people trying too. Anyway, let's wrap up.
No.
I know the
going.
name from people mentioning his name, actually.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to have this show together where he's actually here too.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I'll wrap it up. I know it's really late for you, Annie. I know, even though you're drinking Monster over there.
Only a few steps. I'm not getting much energy from it. I just like how it tastes.
Fair enough. And there you go. We're not even sponsored by Monster here, by the way. But you know what? So,
Frosty Endless.
all right, I'll wrap it up. All right. So before we leave, I want everybody to have a chance to say, you know, anything else they want to say, where people can find them, everything. If there's a few last words you want to throw in there about the topic, whatever you want to do. And we'll start with you, Annie, if that's okay. Just where people can find you if they want to come find you.
Yeah. I stream on Twitch under the name AnnieFuchsia, and I'm on almost daily, pretty much daily. I stream every day. I stream in the earlier daytime for EU and morning times for NA, kind of. Somewhere there, morning to daytime NA, I guess. And I stream mainly Final Fantasy 14 now, but I also did start Final Fantasy 7 Remake recently. So I'm going through that story as well. So just adding a bit of variety, like story games on the side. I am on YouTube as well, but it's mostly sort of highlights from what I do on stream. So my main stuff is on Twitch.
Fair enough. But you should go to YouTube anyways and watch those.
Yeah, you should go to YouTube anyways, because if I stream 10 hours a day, you may not be able to watch 10 hours, right? So it's, you know, dense or like put together into smaller, most important moments. So that's why YouTube is good.
Yeah.
If you have less time, then YouTube is great.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everyone, please go. And by the way, I got your name right this time. I didn't mess that up. I think I got it right. So I have it flashing on the
you
screen.
put me as Annie this time.
Well, Annie, and then it flashes.
To avoid. Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah, it flashes to the
Oh,
other
yeah,
ones.
I see it. I see it. Yeah. When I saw that first, I was like, that's one way of not spelling it wrong.
I'm going to be honest with you. That H turns into a K sometimes when I read your name, and I'm doing my best to make that not happen. Like, because that's what I see. It just goes, and I'm like, I just stop, and I put an H instead, and I do a good job with it. Anyways, this is a great time. Happy, could you do your... could you do...
You know, I'm not doing that because I'm disappointed in you, Frosty. I'm doing it because it's happened to me once or twice.
Because it's just, you don't have a lot of words to go F-U-C-H, right?
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Makes total sense.
Mike, do you want to do your last little bit so people are...
Yeah, I guess. I'm MrHappy. I've been creating content for Final Fantasy 14 for about 7 or 8 years at this point. Like I said earlier, I stream every day, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific. Normally, Annie and I are live at approximately the same time. She's live a little bit before I am, and then I'm usually live a couple hours later. I do YouTube also. I've been doing YouTube for a very long time. And this last week has been exhausting, and tomorrow is going to be more Rich Cobb, as we've been calling it. We've been helping Rich Campbell getting his UCOB clear, his unending coil clear. And we're on the last phase after 3 days. So it's been exhausting, but it's been a lot of fun. So it's really cool to be meeting all these new people in the community like Annie, like Rich, because I'm normally terrible. Frosty knows I'm terrible at saying hi to people.
That's why I got this show, man. That's why I got the show. Yeah. I had Annie and Jesse meet up last time, so you know, I'm doing my best to be that little crossroads.
Good.
So.
I appreciate it because I'm no good at it.
And then
and so,
go, keep going. Go.
No, that's it. It's just it's a great show. I'm glad you brought me on it, and you know, just don't misspell names.
I'll do my best. I'm trying. Angelus, do you want to finish it up and say where people can find you if they need to?
Sure. You can find me at Twitch, Angelus Demonus. I'm doing a lot of YouTube more recently now. We've got a lot of kind of interesting projects all involved with Deep Dungeon. The Discord too, which you could find on my Twitch page, which is pretty busy with a lot of people just again discussing clears and trying to get the clears and whatnot. So it's been really busy on that end. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing me on. And it was really nice to meet you and all that stuff. And happy it was good to actually see you in person. But yeah, that was great. This was fun. This was a good discussion. So I appreciate you having the show.
Absolutely. You know, you know, it's funny. Every time I ask Angelus to come on, he's like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't feel important enough to come on the show. You know, I don't feel like."
I
every
will
single
high five you. The imposter syndrome forever. Let's go. I'm down. I understand that.
But he's a fantastic guest.
I think we all feel that to some extent.
Yeah.
Like me as well. Like, oh, you know, I'm not really that in the Final Fantasy community.
Oh, you're in.
I do appreciate being.
Well, I mean, again, what I like about this show and what I like about the community in general is, other than the few people who are like really hard gatekeepers and I don't understand it, generally people are just happy to see people have a good time. Mm-hmm. It's a more vocal, positive community, even if there's still some people who are.
It's the internet.
Y'all
no, definitely. There has been like a lot of vocal positive, like receiving of me. I don't know if that even makes sense English-wise. But yeah, no, I have been feeling very warmly welcome since like the beginning of me streaming Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Well, welcome again, and I'm so glad that now you're here. You're never gonna play WoW again. You're just gonna play Final Fantasy 14 for like a time. But I do
never again. Can only play one game.
Only one game. You can't. There's tribalism here. You can only play one MMO.
Enough of people giving her a hard time when she played a different game. Now you got to bring it up the other way.
It's so funny. The conversation never stops.
Never bring that up.
Anyways, you've all been blessed. Thank you for coming on the show. I gotta do my own little shout outs real quick. I guess I didn't tell you guys doing shout outs, but I guess you're just SOL now, right? You can't shout out anyone. No thanking anybody.
There's no way they can find us after the show. There's no way. It's not possible.
No, yeah, absolutely not. But I want to do this. Thank you to my wife, by the way, who we recently announced. Kerr and I are going to be parents in about 6 months. So I have a baby on the way. So that's huge news for us. And she is wonderfully supportive of me, and she puts up with me doing this every single weekend. I wouldn't be doing this show if it caused any issues there. So thank God for that. But no, and thank you very much to some people who are part of Andre Kane. Andre Kane is this amazing YouTube musician that not enough people listen to. But he did the intro and the closing for this. He didn't do it for the show, but he lets me use his rendition of the Final Fantasy music there. And, of course, thank you to all the mods. Thank you to everybody. Chat, you guys are all wonderful. Everybody supports the show in any way that you can. I'll get this up on YouTube as soon as possible. I do have a quick Patreon thank you video that we'll be doing. And then after that, we will be doing a raid over to whoever the guests choose for us to raid to. But with that being said, you all have a very wonderful rest of your evening. Enjoy your weekends. For some of you, it's an extended weekend. And please remember to be good, keep cool, and stay frosty. I did it! All right, everybody say bye. Wave.
Bye.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching the show again. It's Bubbles here, and I'm here to thank our Patreon supporters like I normally do. I found my way into some weird building at the moment, so I'm not going to take too long because I don't know if I'm safe. So the Patreon supporters is Ock Morning, which is a great raid resource for the websites and stuff for PvE. Then there's Teamcraft, which is a really great website for crafting. You guys should check that out. And Phase Temperance, which is a great PvE organization putting together events for Final Fantasy 14 community. All really great places to go. And then we have some really cool people who support us. Dude, it's Antonio, D Fury, Daniel H, JJ, Megan C, Nami, and then Psyche and Tagalong. They are all really great supporters. And if you want to support the show too, you can go to Patreon and the Frosty TV Patreon, patreon.com/FrostyTV. Patreon.com FrostyTV. Yeah, you can do that if you want to, and you get mugs and T-shirts and all that great stuff. But hey, I'm gonna leave. I'm not safe. Thank you guys. Bye.